Her hand squeezed my arm hard enough to leave marks. "Are you going to buy that house for us, or I guarantee your life will become a nightmare. I'll tell everyone you harassed me. That you tried to touch me. That you offered me money to leave your son." She smiled, and in that smile, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. We were just a few meters from the main hall, where 200 guests were waiting to celebrate my only son's wedding. But there, in that empty hallway, the woman about to become my daughter-in-law had just blackmailed me. "My name is Richard, I'm 52 years old, and I built my company from scratch. I started selling car parts in a rented booth, and today I own 3 dealerships in California. I lost my wife Amanda 7 years ago to aggressive cancer. Since then I've devoted my life to 2 things, my work and my son Daniel. He is all I have left of her. He has the same kind eyes, the same way of tilting his head when he's thinking. I raised this boy alone, taught him values, worked double so that he would never lack anything. And now, here I was, 10 minutes from the ceremony, being extorted by the woman he loved. It all started 6 months ago, when Daniel came home with that sparkle in his eyes I hadn't seen since he was a child. "Dad, I met someone special. I want you to meet her." I organized a dinner at my apartment. I made lasagna, Amanda's recipe, lit candles, bought wine. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to like her. When the door opened and I saw Natalie for the first time, she was exactly what I would expect Daniel to choose. Carefully styled blonde hair, a discreet but expensive dress, a polite smile. She greeted me with a warm hug and complimented the apartment even before entering the living room. During dinner, she asked all the right questions about my business, laughed at my stories, touched Daniel's arm affectionately whenever he spoke. But something was wrong. I noticed in the details. The way her eyes scanned the apartment, cataloging every valuable object. How she casually mentioned that she had always dreamed of living in a spacious house with a garden. How she changed the subject when I asked about her family. How her smile never fully reached her eyes. When she went to the bathroom, I leaned toward Daniel. "Son, what do you know about her past?" He frowned. "Dad, please. Don't start." That bothered me. It wasn't baseless suspicion. It was instinct. The same instinct that made me refuse 3 bad partnerships in the early years of the company. The same instinct that saved me from terrible investments. I decided to investigate discreetly. I hired a private investigator, something that made me feel dirty, invasive. But it was my son. I needed to be sure. The report arrived 2 weeks later, and each page I turned made my stomach churn. Natalie Foster was 28 years old and had an impressive history. 3 previous relationships with older, successful men. 2 extortion lawsuits that were dropped after financial settlements. Debts with 5 different credit cards. An eviction from a luxury apartment she couldn't pay for. And more worryingly, 2 accusations of faking a pregnancy to extract money from ex-boyfriends. The pattern was always the same. She would meet men at social events, usually sons of businessmen. She would charm them, emotionally entangle them, create dependency. Then came the fake pregnancy, threats, extortion. Once she got the money, she disappeared. Until the next target. My son was the next target. I tried to talk to Daniel the following week. I chose a quiet moment after work when he came to visit. "I need to show you something important." I placed the envelope on the table. "It's about Natalie." He didn't even open it. He pushed it back forcefully. "I can't believe you did this. You investigated my girlfriend as if she were a criminal." His voice shook with anger. "You can't stand to see me happy, can you? Ever since Mom died, you want to control me. Decide everything in my life." Those words cut deeper than any blade. "Daniel, I just want to protect you." He stood up, grabbed his coat. "Protect? You want to trap me. Natalie is the best thing that has ever happened to me, and you won't ruin that." He slammed the door on his way out. 2 weeks later, they announced their engagement. Natalie rushed everything. The ceremony would be in 3 months. She already had the venue, the catering, the invitations. Everything planned with military efficiency. When I questioned Daniel about the haste, he replied sharply, "When you know it's the right person, why wait?" I knew those words. They were mine. I had said the same thing about Amanda 25 years ago. In the following months, I distanced myself. Daniel barely spoke to me. Natalie constantly posted photos of them on social media, always tagging expensive locations, sophisticated restaurants. I watched my son change. He who had always been simple, suddenly wore designer clothes, frequented places he had never even known before. On the wedding day, I arrived early. The church was decorated with white and gold flowers. Everything perfect, everything expensive. I greeted some guests, forced smiles. Then I saw her, alone in the side hallway, fiddling with her phone. I took a deep breath and approached. I needed to try one last time. "Natalie, can we talk?" She looked up, and for a second, the mask fell. I saw pure irritation. But the smile quickly returned. "Of course, Richard. What is it?" I tried to keep my voice calm. "There's still time. You can back out now, leave, and I guarantee you'll get out of this situation with dignity." That's when everything changed. The smile vanished completely. She stepped forward, invading my space. "Do you think I'm stupid? That I don't know what you've been doing?" Her voice was low, venomous. "I know you investigated me. I know you tried to turn your son against me. But guess what? He loves me. And he'll do everything I ask." She crossed her arms. "Including, we're going to need a house. That $4 million mansion I showed you last week. You're going to buy it for us. As a wedding gift." I felt my blood run cold. "You're crazy if you think I'm going to do that." She laughed, a sound with no humor. "Not going to? Then I'll tell everyone here that you tried to seduce me. That you offered me money to leave Daniel. That you cornered me and tried to touch me." She stepped closer and then grabbed my arm tightly. "I'll scream, cry, make a scene. And guess who they'll believe? The poor traumatized bride or the rich controlling father-in-law?" Every word was a stab. "You're going to destroy your own marriage?" She smiled, and in that smile, I saw the full truth. "No. I'm going to destroy you. Daniel will comfort me, will distance himself from you completely. And I'll still get the house. Because he'll want to compensate me, prove he's not like his horrible father." That's when I understood the depth of the manipulation. She wasn't just extorting money. She was systematically destroying our relationship. And worse, it was working perfectly. I looked at that woman, so young, so beautiful on the outside, so rotten on the inside. And I made a decision. "All right. You win. I'll buy the house." She blinked, surprised at how easily I gave in. "Really?" I nodded. "But after the ceremony. We'll handle this calmly, in private." Natalie studied my face, searching for signs of a trap. But I kept a neutral, defeated expression. "Fine. But don't try anything. I always get what I want, Richard. Always." She turned and went back to the hall, leaving a trail of expensive perfume. I stood there, alone in that hallway, heart racing. My mind was working at full speed. She had underestimated me. Thought I was just an overprotective father, easily manipulated. She didn't know I had built an empire fighting people far more dangerous than her. She didn't know I already had a plan. I entered the main hall. Daniel was at the altar, nervously adjusting his tie. When our eyes met, he looked away immediately. That hurt more than any blackmail. I sat in the front row, where the father of the groom should be. Alone. The music started. Natalie entered radiant, smiling at everyone. When she passed me, our eyes met for a second. In that look, she sent me a clear message: I won. But the battle had only just begun. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Because what happened next changed everything. The ceremony was a silent torture. Every word from the priest, every vow Daniel made, every smile Natalie displayed for the guests felt like watching my son walk straight into an abyss. When the priest said, "You may kiss the bride," my stomach churned. Applause echoed through the church while I remained seated, my hands clenched over my knees. At the reception, I watched her every move. Natalie was too perfect. She greeted guests with exactly the right degree of enthusiasm, hugged Daniel's aunts with false intimacy, posed for photos always showing off the diamond ring. But I saw what others didn't. The way her eyes calculated each arriving gift. How she steered Daniel to talk specifically with my wealthiest partners. How she mentally noted who might be useful in the future. I had to act fast. But I needed more proof, something irrefutable that not even Daniel's blind love could ignore. The day after the wedding, while they were on their honeymoon in Hawaii, I did something I had never imagined doing. I went to their new apartment, the place Daniel had rented 3 months earlier. I had a copy of the key he'd given me for emergencies. My hand shook as I put it in the lock. I was invading my own son's privacy. But what if I did nothing? What if I let that woman destroy everything he had built? The apartment was small but well decorated. I recognized some furniture from our old house, things Daniel had taken when he moved out. In the living room, I saw photos of them smiling. In all of them, he looked genuinely happy. That made everything harder. What if I was wrong? What if Natalie really loved my son and I was just a paranoid father? Then I found her laptop. It was open on the office desk, still on. The screen showed an Excel spreadsheet. I leaned in, and what I saw confirmed my worst nightmares. It was a detailed list. My name at the top, with my estimated net worth, my properties, my investments. Below, a timeline. Wedding completed. House in progress. Access to joint accounts, 3 months. Fake pregnancy, 6 months if necessary. Bile rose in my throat. I kept scrolling. There was more. Names I didn't know. Men. 5 of them. Each with amounts beside them. Michael Chun, 200,000. Thomas Bradford, 150,000. James Morrison, 300,000. Next to each name, a note. Out-of-court settlement. Lawsuit dropped upon payment. Threat of public exposure, effective. They were her previous victims. I took photos of everything with my cell phone, my hands shaking so much I had to try 3 times for each image to come out clear. Then I saw a folder called Important Documents. I opened it. Inside were scanned medical tests. But something was wrong. The names were different on each one. Natalie Foster. Natalie Williams. Natalie Chun. She used the surnames of the men she deceived. There were also ultrasound photos. 5 different ones. All with dates digitally altered. I zoomed in on one and saw small inconsistencies in the editing. Those images were fake, recycled for each new scam. That's when I heard the front door open. My heart raced. They weren't supposed to return for another 4 days. I shut the laptop quickly and desperately looked for a place to hide. Voices came from the hall. Daniel's, confused, "Are you sure you forgot it here?" And hers, impatient, "Yes, my passport. I can't find it anywhere." I shoved myself into the office closet, pulling the door nearly closed. Through the crack, I saw Natalie enter the room. She went straight to the laptop, checked that everything was as she had left it, then grabbed a purse under the desk. "Found it," she shouted to Daniel. But before leaving, she paused. Looked around slowly, as if sensing something was different. My blood froze. She walked to the closet where I was hiding. Her steps were slow, deliberate. I barely breathed, curled up among boxes and coats. Her hand touched the doorknob. "Natalie, come on. We'll miss our flight back." Daniel's voice saved my life. She hesitated, released the knob. "Coming." I heard her steps recede, the door close, silence return. I waited a full 20 minutes before moving. When I finally left the apartment, my legs could barely hold me. But I had what I needed. I had concrete evidence. On the way back home, my mind raced. That information was explosive, but would it be enough? Daniel was so emotionally involved that he could simply claim the photos were fabricated, manipulated by me. I needed more. I needed witnesses, real people who could confirm her pattern of behavior. That's when I had a risky idea. Over the following days, I began tracking down Natalie's previous victims. It wasn't hard. The names were all there, in the damned spreadsheet. I started with Michael Chun, an entrepreneur from Seattle. I found his LinkedIn profile, his import business. I called his office, introducing myself only as a mutual acquaintance of Natalie Foster. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then, a tense voice, "How did you get my number?" I explained that I was trying to protect my son. There was a long pause. Your son married her? His voice trembled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We arranged to meet at a discreet cafe. Michael was 35, but looked 10 years older. Deep dark circles under his eyes, nervous hands, the look of someone who had been through trauma. She destroyed me, he began without hesitation. I met Natalie at a networking event 2 years ago. She was everything I was looking for. Smart, funny, interested in my work. After 3 months, she said she was pregnant. He stopped to take a sip of coffee, his hands shaking. I was happy. I wanted that baby. I started planning everything. I bought a bigger house, reorganized my company to have more free time. Then one night, she came with tears in her eyes saying she had lost the baby. Michael looked at me, his eyes red. I comforted her, of course. But 2 weeks later, the blackmail started. She said she would accuse me of assault if I didn't pay $200,000. She had fake photos, edited messages, everything prepared. You paid? I asked, already knowing the answer. I paid. I signed a confidentiality agreement. She disappeared the next day. He ran his hand over his face. It took me months to discover there was never a pregnancy. The tests were fake. Everything was fake. I spoke with 2 more. Thomas Bradford, a lawyer from Portland. James Morrison, a real estate broker from San Diego. The stories were identical. Casual meeting. Intense relationship. Fake pregnancy. Blackmail. Payment. Disappearance. Each conversation made me angrier and, strangely, more determined. That woman was a professional predator. And my son was just another name on her list. But there was a problem. They had all signed confidentiality agreements. None could testify publicly without risking multimillion-dollar lawsuits. Natalie had thought of everything. Every detail, every exit was blocked. That's when Michael gave me a crucial piece of information. There's one more person you need to meet. Her mother. I blinked, confused. Natalie's mother? He nodded. Catherine Foster. She reached out to me months after everything happened. Said she was trying to fix her daughter's mistakes. Offered me help, but I was already too broken to accept. That was unexpected. The scammer's own mother wanted to help the victims? I got Catherine's contact through Michael. I called that same night, not knowing what to expect. The voice that answered was soft, tired. Hello. I explained who I was, that my son had married Natalie. There was a deep sigh on the other end. I need to meet you in person. There are things you need to know about my daughter. Things that will help you save your son before it's too late. We arranged for the next day in a public park. I arrived early, anxious. When I saw Catherine for the first time, I understood where Natalie had inherited her looks. She must have been in her 50s, gray hair pinned in a bun, blue eyes like her daughter's, but with a deep sadness in them. We sat on a distant bench. Catherine wasted no time. My daughter is sick. Not in a way the law would recognize, but psychologically. She learned early that she could manipulate people to get what she wanted. She looked at her hands. And it's my fault. I stayed silent, letting her continue. Her father left us when Natalie was 5. He was rich and left us with nothing. I fought to raise my daughter alone, working 3 jobs. Natalie grew up seeing other kids with everything she didn't have. And something inside her broke. Catherine wiped a tear. When she was 16, I discovered she was extorting money from a teacher. She lied, manipulated, created false evidence. I tried to fix her, but it was too late. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I lost my daughter a long time ago. The person she became is no longer the child I raised. And I can't stand by and watch her destroy more lives. Catherine handed me an envelope. Here are copies of documents that can help you. Confessions she made to me years ago, when she still trusted me. Records of psychological treatments she abandoned. And most important, a diary she kept as a teenager, where she wrote about her future plans. I opened the envelope. Inside were dozens of pages. I read a few lines from the diary, written in Natalie's youthful handwriting. They deserve to pay. Rich men think they can have everything. I will make them pay for existing. I looked at Catherine, who was crying silently. She needs professional help, not prison. But first, she needs to be stopped. Natalie's mother squeezed my hand. Save your son, Richard, before it's too late. I spent the next 3 weeks crafting my plan as if I were preparing for the most important negotiation of my life. Because, in a way, that's exactly what it was. I wasn't fighting for money or property. I was fighting for my son. Catherine became my unlikely ally. We met discreetly every 2 days, always in different locations, always cautious. She told me details that no investigator could uncover. How Natalie studied her victims for months before approaching them. How she created different personas for each target, shaping her personality according to what they were looking for. How she documented everything meticulously, keeping fake evidence to use later. She has a safe, Catherine told me during one of our meetings. At her parents' apartment, where she keeps documents from all her previous scams. It's like a trophy for her. Proof of her own success. I noted it mentally. That safe could be the key to everything. But there was a bigger problem. Daniel hated me. Since the wedding, he wouldn't answer my calls. He had blocked my number. When I tried to visit him at work, the receptionist said he had left instructions not to let me up. Natalie had completely poisoned our relationship, and with each passing day, the poison spread deeper. Then something happened that completely changed my strategy. It was a rainy Tuesday when I received a call from an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Richard Torres. The voice was female, young, nervous. My name is Lisa. I work at the bank where Daniel has an account. I shouldn't be calling you, but I need to tell you something important. My heart raced. I'm listening. Lisa hesitated. Your daughter-in-law was here today. She tried to add her name to Daniel's business account. The one that has access to his company's funds. I felt my blood freeze. Daniel had a small IT consulting company, something he had built alone over the last 3 years. It was his pride, his independence. Did she succeed? No. Daniel wasn't present, and 2 signatures are required for that kind of change. But she got very angry. Said she would come back with him tomorrow. Lisa took a deep breath. There's more. She asked about loans using the company as collateral. Large amounts. Very large. I thanked Lisa, promising her name would never be mentioned. When I hung up, I realized Natalie was accelerating the schedule. She wasn't going to wait 6 months as planned. She wanted access to the money now. And if she got it, Daniel would lose everything. I had to act. But how do you reach a son who refuses to listen to you? The answer came unexpectedly. Catherine called me that night, her voice strangely excited. I did it. I got into my parents' apartment and opened Natalie's safe. My heart raced. And she sighed. There's evidence here that can destroy her legally. Fake contracts signed, copies of altered documents, even recordings of conversations with previous victims. She kept it all. Why would she keep evidence against herself? I asked, confused. Because, in her mind, it's power. Proof that she always wins. And because she believes no one will ever find it. Catherine paused. But there's more. A recent notebook. She writes about Daniel. About her plans for him. It's disturbing, Richard. She feels nothing for your son. He's just another job for her. I asked Catherine to scan everything and send it to me. That night, I received dozens of files. I read each one, my rage growing with every line. There were detailed notes about Daniel's routine. Passwords she had copied. Contacts of his clients she planned to use for future extortion. And the worst, an exit plan. Once she gained control of his finances, she would fake a marital crisis, accuse him of abuse, and leave with a multimillion-dollar settlement. My son was just a number on a spreadsheet to her. The next morning, I made a drastic decision. If Daniel wouldn't talk to me, I would make him listen. But not with words. With evidence impossible to ignore. I hired a technology expert, someone Michael Chun recommended. Marcus was a young talent who had helped several of Natalie's victims recover digital evidence. I need you to install monitoring software on her phone, I explained. Something that captures conversations, messages, everything. Marcus shook his head. That's illegal without consent. I looked him straight in the eye. And letting her destroy my son isn't? He sighed. There's a legal way. If you have physical access to the phone for 5 minutes, I can install something she'll authorize herself without knowing. An app disguised as a security update. It was risky, but my only chance. The problem was getting her phone. Natalie never let it out of her sight, even to sleep, according to Catherine. I needed to create a situation where she would be forced to leave the phone unprotected. I spent 2 days thinking until I had an idea. I arranged a fake dinner. I called Daniel from a borrowed number, posing as an important client who wanted to meet him in person. I booked an expensive restaurant, knowing Natalie wouldn't resist showing up. It's about a long-term consulting contract. 6 figures. I used a disguised voice. But I need to meet you and your wife. Family business, you know how it is. Daniel agreed. On the appointed night, I arrived at the restaurant before them, already coordinated with Marcus. He was disguised as a waiter, ready to act. When I saw Daniel enter with Natalie, my chest tightened. He looked tired, thinner. She was impeccable as always, but there was something predatory in her eyes as she scanned the expensive surroundings. They waited at the reception for 20 minutes. The fictitious client, of course, never appeared. I watched Natalie grow impatient, repeatedly checking her phone. Then what I had planned happened. The restaurant manager, whom I had generously bribed, approached. We're very sorry, but there's been a problem with the reservations. We need you to wait in the private lounge while we resolve it. The lounge had a strict rule: no electronic devices due to privacy concerns for other clients. It was frequented by celebrities, so the rule was enforced strictly. Natalie tried to argue, but security was inflexible. She had to leave her phone in a locked cabinet at the entrance. 15 minutes passed. Marcus worked quickly. When Natalie recovered the phone, it looked identical. But now, every word she spoke would be recorded and sent to a secure server. Daniel finally realized it was a scam and stormed out of the restaurant, Natalie following. But the trap was set. In the following days, the recordings began arriving. It was like peering into the mind of a psychopath. I heard Natalie on the phone with a friend. He's pathetic. He does everything I ask. I just need a few more weeks to gain full access to his money. I heard her laughing about how Daniel believed she was pregnant when it was just gas. I heard her planning with someone how to forge documents for a fraudulent loan. Each recording was a knife to the heart. But I needed more. I needed her to directly confess what she had done to previous victims. I needed something so clear that even Daniel couldn't deny it. That's when Catherine had a brilliant idea. I'll confront my daughter. I'll make her confess everything, thinking we're alone. Can you record it? It was dangerous. If Natalie discovered it, Catherine could be in danger. But the mother was determined. I lost my daughter a long time ago. Now I just want to stop her from destroying more families. We equipped Catherine with a tiny recorder. She arranged lunch with Natalie at a quiet cafe. I was in a van across the street, listening in real time through an earpiece. Marcus was with me, monitoring the equipment. I heard Catherine begin gently. Daughter, I'm worried about you. This marriage with Daniel, is it real? Natalie laughed. Mom, you know I don't believe in love. I believe in opportunities. Catherine insisted. And the others? Michael, Thomas, James? Don't you feel remorse? There was silence. Then Natalie's voice, cold. Remorse? Why? They had money they didn't deserve. I just redistributed wealth. She sighed. You never understood, Mom. The world is divided between predators and prey. I chose my side. And Daniel? You're going to destroy him too. Catherine's voice trembled. Daniel will learn a valuable lesson about trusting the wrong people. He'll survive. Everyone survives. Natalie paused. By the way, I'm almost getting access to his accounts. 2 more weeks, and I can start the final phase. I'll accuse him of assault, get a restraining order, take half in a divorce. I've consulted 3 lawyers. It's foolproof. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. Breathe. We're getting everything we need. Catherine continued bravely. And his father? Richard tried to stop you. Natalie laughed. That old fool? He already lost. Daniel hates me more than he loves his own father. That was the best part of the plan. Isolating him completely. Now Daniel only has me. And when I leave, he'll have no one. He'll be broken and alone. Exactly as he deserves for being so stupid. Tears ran down my face. Not from sadness, but from pure rage. That woman had turned my son into a victim and was laughing about it. But now I had everything. Complete confession, clear intentions, multiple admitted crimes. Catherine ended the lunch quickly, saying she didn't feel well. When she got into the van, she was pale, trembling. My daughter is lost, she whispered. Completely lost. I hugged Catherine as she cried. Two people destroyed by the same monster, now united by the need for justice. We'll stop her, I promised. I swear. I spent that night organizing all the evidence. Natalie's recordings. The documents from the safe. Written testimonies from previous victims who agreed to testify if we guaranteed anonymity. Bank records showing suspicious transfers. Her teenage diary planning future scams. Recent phone conversations admitting fraud. It was a mountain of evidence. But one crucial piece was still missing. I needed Daniel to see all of it. I needed to shatter the illusion Natalie had built around him. And I knew exactly how to do it. I called Daniel's office, this time using my own number. Surprisingly, he answered. Dad, I said I don't want to talk to you. His voice was tired. I know you don't want to. But I need you to come to my office tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon. Alone. I'll show you something that will change everything. He hesitated. Is it about Natalie? It's about the truth. There was a long silence. Then, to my surprise, all right. I'll be there. Daniel arrived promptly at 3 in the afternoon. When he entered my office, my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. My son looked 10 years older. Deep dark circles, a thin face, shoulders hunched as if carrying the weight of the world. He didn't even look me in the eye when he sat in the chair across from my desk. This better be quick. Natalie's waiting for me for dinner. His voice was cold, distant. I took a deep breath. It was now or never. Son, I know you hate me now. I know you think I'm a controlling father trying to ruin your happiness. But I need you to hear a few things before you judge me for good. He crossed his arms defensively. If this is more accusations about Natalie, I'm leaving. I raised my hand. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm just going to show you. After that, if you want to hate me forever, I accept it. But at least you'll hate me knowing the whole truth. I grabbed the laptop and turned the screen toward him. This is a recording from 3 days ago. Your wife having lunch with her mother. I pressed play. Natalie's voice filled the room. Mom, you know I don't believe in love. I believe in opportunities. Daniel frowned but kept watching. The recording played on. Every venomous word, every admission of manipulation, every cruel laugh about how pathetic and easy to control Daniel was. I watched the color drain from my son's face. His hands began to shake. When it reached the part where Natalie described her plans to falsely accuse him of assault, he squeezed his eyes shut. Turn it off, he whispered. I turned it off. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel breathed with difficulty, as if having a panic attack. This can't be real. You edited it, manipulated it somehow. But his voice lacked conviction. I placed a thick folder on the desk. Inside is more. Documents from her private safe. Evidence from 5 other men she did the same thing to. Written testimonies. Bank records. A diary of hers from adolescence planning these scams. I pushed the folder toward him. Read. Everything. Daniel opened the folder with trembling hands. I saw his eyes scan the pages, each line adding more pain, more shock, more horror. When he reached the fake ultrasound photos, he dropped everything and ran to the bathroom. I heard him vomiting. When he returned, he was pale and sweating. He sat heavily in the chair. How was I so stupid? His voice was broken. How did I not notice? I walked to him and knelt beside the chair. Son, she's a professional. She spent years perfecting this. It's not your fault. I pushed you away because of her. I called you controlling. I hated you. Tears streamed down his face now. And you were right the whole time. You were trying to protect me, and he couldn't finish sobbing. I hugged my son for the first time in months. I felt him tremble in my arms, all that manipulated love turning into pain, anger, shame. We'll fix this, I promised. Together. We spent the next hour planning. Daniel told me things that made me want to break something. How Natalie controlled every aspect of his life. Who he spoke to, where he went, how much he spent. How she checked his phone every night. How she had convinced him to cut contact with old friends, saying they weren't good for him. Perfect isolation. She tried to get access to my company account this morning, Daniel said, his voice full of bitterness. Said she needed it because we're married, that it was normal. I almost signed the papers. He looked at me. If it weren't for this conversation, I would have given her everything. Then Daniel asked a question that changed everything. Dad, she said she's pregnant. For 3 weeks. I didn't even question it because, he stopped, realization hitting him like a train. She's not really pregnant, is she? I shook my head. It's her pattern. She always fakes pregnancy at the right moment to secure complete emotional control. The anger on Daniel's face was something I had never seen before. My gentle, peaceful son had transformed. She will pay for this. For every lie. I put my hand on his shoulder. And she will. But we need to be smart. If we confront her now, she'll run or create a narrative making us the villains. We need a public, irrefutable confession. That's when I had the idea. Your company's anniversary party. Friday. Did you invite Natalie? Daniel nodded. I invited half the town. Clients, partners, even local journalists. She insisted on doing something big to impress the right people. Perfect. A public stage with respectable witnesses. We'll make her confess there. In front of everyone. Daniel looked at me, confused. How? She will never admit anything publicly. I smiled for the first time in weeks. She will, if she doesn't know she's being listened to. We put the plan together carefully. Daniel would go home acting normal, as if nothing had happened. He would continue being the loving, manipulated husband. At the party, we would create a situation where Natalie would feel safe to speak the truth. And the whole room would hear. When Daniel left my office that afternoon, he hugged me tightly. Thank you for not giving up on me, Dad. I held his face in my hands. Never. I will never give up on you. I watched him leave with renewed purpose. My son was back. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. Daniel sent me secret messages about how Natalie was growing more impatient. She wanted the company document signed. She was pushing about the supposed pregnancy, creating emotional drama whenever he hesitated. The noose was tightening. Catherine was also in constant contact. She had obtained more documents from the safe, including one that chilled us, a divorce contract already prepared for Daniel, with absurd amounts, dated for 2 months from now. Natalie had everything timed. On Friday, I arrived early at the hall where the party would be held. Marcus was there, installing hidden microphones strategically. I put a small transmitter in the pocket of the jacket Daniel would wear. Everything had to work perfectly. Guests began arriving at 7. I saw familiar faces, important clients of Daniel, business partners, and journalists. 3 of them, from reputable publications. Perfect. Natalie arrived at 7:30, stunning in a red dress, clinging to Daniel's arm. She sparkled, working the room like a professional, charming everyone she met. At 8:15, we executed the plan. Catherine arrived at the party, something Natalie didn't expect. I watched her face freeze when she saw her mother. Daniel, following the script, said loudly enough for Natalie to hear, "My father didn't come. He said he was sick." She visibly relaxed. Catherine approached Natalie, asking to speak privately. They went to a side room we had prepared. What Natalie didn't know was that the room had speakers connected to the main sound system of the hall. Every word would be transmitted to the 200 guests. Marcus gave me the signal. I activated the system. Catherine began. Natalie, I need to ask you a direct question. Do you love Daniel? There was a pause. Then Natalie's voice, broadcast to the entire party. Love? Mom, I told you. I don't believe in love. Daniel is a job. A very profitable job. The hall fell into absolute silence. Everyone had heard. Catherine continued, her voice steady despite the pain. And the pregnancy? Natalie laughed. That cruel sound echoed through the speakers. There is no pregnancy. It's what I always do. Keeps them emotionally trapped while I get what I need. I saw people start to take out phones, recording. The journalists furiously took notes. Daniel stood in the center of the hall, silent tears running down his face as everyone listened to his humiliation. Catherine didn't stop. And the other men? Michael, Thomas, James. Natalie's voice showed zero remorse. They paid what they owed. Just like Daniel will pay. By the way, on Monday I'll make him sign the papers giving access to the accounts. Then it's only a matter of time before I have everything. But that's a crime. Fraud, extortion. Catherine was crying now. It's only a crime if they prove it. And I never leave proof. Natalie sighed. Look, I know you don't approve of my methods, but someone had to teach these rich men a lesson. They think they can have everything. I just take from them and keep it. That's when Daniel walked into the side room and opened the door. Natalie was turned away from the entrance, phone in hand, probably checking messages while talking to her mother. When she heard the door, she turned and froze when she saw Daniel. Then she saw the two security guards behind him. And behind them, two uniformed police officers I had quietly invited. Daniel, she began, her mask snapping back into place instantly. Darling, I can explain. Your grandmother is making me say these horrible things. But it was too late. Everyone had heard. Daniel just looked at her, a mixture of pain and disgust on his face. It's over, Natalie. It's over. One of the officers stepped forward. Natalie Foster, you are under arrest on suspicion of fraud, extortion, and document forgery. You have the right to remain silent. I watched all the color drain from her face. For the first time since I met her, I saw real fear in her eyes. She tried to run, but the guards blocked the exit. The handcuffs clicked around her wrists, and the sound echoed through the silent hall. As they led her away, she screamed at Daniel, "You'll regret this. I'll destroy you." I will, but the doors closed, cutting off her threats. The hall erupted in murmurs. Daniel dropped to his knees in the middle of the room, and I ran to him. I hugged my son as he sobbed, all the pain, betrayal, and relief pouring out at once. Catherine joined us, crying silently. The three of us, united by the pain caused by the same person, but also by the courage to face her. The journalists surrounded us, but Daniel raised his hand. Not today. Please. And surprisingly, they respected it, stepping back. One of them, a woman of about 50, approached discreetly. I'll write about this. About men being victims of predators too. Your story will help others. Daniel only nodded, too exhausted for words. The party ended early. People left in respectful silence. It was just the three of us and Marcus, who was dismantling the equipment. It's over, Catherine whispered. Finally over. But I knew it wasn't that simple. The legal process would be long. Daniel's emotional wounds would take years to heal. And Natalie, even arrested, could still cause trouble. The 6 months that followed were a roller coaster of emotions, legal proceedings, and healing. Natalie tried to reverse the situation several times. She hired expensive lawyers who claimed the recordings were illegal, that she had been coerced, that it was all a conspiracy on my part to break up the couple. But the amount of evidence was overwhelming. The testimonies of previous victims, the documents from the safe, the multiple recordings, all formed a case too solid to ignore. The trial was swift and brutal. Michael Chun, Thomas Bradford, and James Morrison finally found the courage to testify, breaking their confidentiality agreements now that they had legal protection. Each of them told almost identical stories, revealing a consistent pattern of behavior that left no doubt about her guilt. When the sentence was read, 5 years in prison for multiple counts of fraud and extortion, I felt a strange mixture of victory and sadness. Victory because my son was finally safe. Sadness because it wouldn't give back the months Daniel had lost, the trust that had been broken, the innocence that had been stolen. Daniel was by my side in the courtroom. He showed no emotion as Natalie was led away in handcuffs. She tried to look at him one last time, but my son simply turned his face away. In that simple gesture, I saw that he had finally freed himself from her. But legal freedom did not mean emotional freedom. Daniel plunged into a deep depression in the following weeks. He locked himself in the apartment, which he now lived in alone again. He stopped eating properly, stopped taking care of himself. His business began to suffer because he couldn't focus. I visited every day. Sometimes he spoke. Sometimes we just sat in silence. One afternoon, he finally broke down. "Dad, I feel so stupid. How did I let this happen? Everyone who looks at me now knows I was fooled for months. I'm the joke of the town." I held his shoulders, forcing him to look me in the eyes. "Son, you are not stupid. You are human. You trusted someone you loved. That is not weakness, it is courage. What would be stupid is refusing to love again because of this experience." He shook his head. "I don't know if I can trust anyone again. She destroyed that in me. Then we'll rebuild. Together." And that's what we did. I convinced Daniel to go to therapy. At first he resisted, but after a few sessions, he began to open up. The therapist diagnosed symptoms of emotional abuse and psychological trauma. It wasn't just about getting over a bad relationship, it was about healing from systematic manipulation. Catherine was also fighting her own battles. The guilt of having raised a daughter capable of such cruelty consumed her. We met regularly, and in those meetings, something unexpected began to blossom between us. At first, it was just mutual comfort. Two people hurt by the same situation, finding solace in each other's company. But over time, I realized it was more. Catherine was strong in a way I hadn't expected. Even destroyed by her daughter's situation, she got up every day and tried to do good. She visited Natalie's previous victims, apologizing on her daughter's behalf. She donated to charities helping victims of fraud. She turned her pain into action. It was one of those afternoons, sitting in a small cafe, that I realized I had fallen in love with her. It wasn't the fiery passion of youth I had felt with Amanda. It was something softer, deeper. It was the recognition of a kindred spirit, someone who understood pain, loss, and still chose kindness. It took me 3 weeks to summon the courage to say something. We were walking in the park, the same place where she had handed me the envelope with evidence months earlier. "Catherine, I need to tell you something." She stopped, looking at me with those gentle blue eyes. I've fallen in love with you. I know it's complicated, given everything that happened, but I can't pretend anymore that it's just friendship." I saw tears fill her eyes. For a terrible moment, I thought I had ruined everything. Then she smiled. "Richard, I've fallen in love with you too. For weeks. But I was afraid you'd only see me as her mother, as part of the tragedy." I held her face in my hands. "You are not defined by your daughter's mistakes. You are the brave woman who stood up to her own daughter to save strangers. You are amazing." Our first kiss was sweet, filled with promises of new beginnings and healing. When I told Daniel about my relationship with Catherine, I feared his reaction. But my son surprised me. "Dad, you deserve to be happy. And Catherine is a good person. Don't let what Natalie did stop you from having something beautiful." The maturity in his words filled me with pride. The months passed. Daniel slowly returned to himself. He restructured his company, cut ties with people Natalie had planted in his life, rebuilt old friendships. He met a woman named Rebecca in a therapy group. She had also come out of an abusive relationship. They started as friends, supporting each other, taking their time. A year after Natalie's imprisonment, I organized a dinner at my house. Daniel brought Rebecca. Catherine was there, helping in the kitchen as if she had always belonged in that space. As we prepared the table together, I looked around and felt immense gratitude. Yes, we had gone through something horrible. Yes, there were scars that would never completely fade. But we were here together, stronger than before. During dinner, Daniel raised his glass. "I want to make a toast. To my father, who never gave up on me even when I didn't deserve it. To Catherine, who had the courage to do the right thing even when it was the hardest thing in the world. And to us for surviving. We clinked glasses, and in that crystal sound, I heard hope. After dinner, Daniel called me to the balcony. "Dad, there's something I need to tell you." He took a deep breath. I spent months hating myself for being deceived. But my therapist helped me understand something. Natalie didn't choose me because I'm weak or stupid. She chose me because I am capable of loving deeply, of trusting, of giving myself. Those are beautiful qualities, not flaws. Tears stung my eyes. And they are the same qualities your mother had. You are her son, Daniel. In the best possible way. He smiled, that genuine smile I hadn't seen in so long. I learned something crucial from all this. True love isn't just about saying yes. Sometimes, it's about having the courage to say no. To set boundaries. To protect not just the other person, but yourself. His words echoed in me. That was exactly it. I had said no to Natalie, no to her manipulations, no to the destruction of my son. And that no had saved our family. 3 months later, I proposed to Catherine. It was simple, just the two of us in the same park where it all began. When she said yes, I felt I had finally found peace. Daniel was my best man. Rebecca was Catherine's maid of honor. The ceremony was small, intimate, only people who truly mattered. No ostentation, no pomp. Just true and honest love. During my vows, I looked at Catherine and said, "You've taught me that it's possible to find light even in the deepest darkness. That kindness can be born from pain. That it's never too late to start over." She cried, and I cried too. 2 years after that first blackmail in the church corridor, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Natalie, from prison. Catherine advised me not to read it, but my curiosity won. The letter was short, written in trembling handwriting. "Richard, I know you owe me nothing. But I need you to know that for the first time in my life, I understand the weight of what I did. Mandatory therapy here forced me to confront things I always avoided. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. But I hope Daniel knows that, amidst all the lies, there were moments where I almost believed it could have been different. Almost. Take care of him. He deserves everything I never could be." I showed the letter to Daniel. He read it silently, then folded it carefully. "I don't know if this changes anything. But at least she's trying to be honest with herself." He looked out the window. "I won't visit her. I won't write back. But I hope she finds peace in her own way." My son's ability to wish well for someone who had destroyed him filled me with admiration. He had grown so much, matured through pain. Today, 3 years after it all began, I have a life I never imagined possible. Catherine and I live in a modest house, full of light and laughter. Daniel thrives in his business, now with Rebecca by his side, building something healthy and real. Sometimes, I still have nightmares. I wake up sweating, reliving that moment in the corridor when Natalie blackmailed me. But then I look at Catherine sleeping next to me, think of Daniel happy and at peace, and understand that every moment of suffering was worth it. Because I learned the most valuable lesson of my life. True love isn't about never saying no. It's about having the courage to protect those you love, even if it means being temporarily hated. It's about choosing truth over comfort. It's about fighting for the right person, not the easy one. And it's about understanding that sometimes, the greatest act of love is saving someone from themselves. If you made it this far in this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Because sometimes, the hardest stories carry the most important lessons. And this is a lesson that can save lives.